Hello, erudites, and welcome back to Next Level Catch-ups 2.0 for General Biology 2 for the second semester. Today we'll be discussing Lesson 3, which is all about um, biotechnology recombinant. That's supposed to be recombinant DNA technology. So, in the previous discussion, we discussed about what we call as the DNA replication, and specifically the aspects of translation and transcription. So, in this video lesson, I'll be discussing about how a type of biotechnology, specifically what we call as recombinant DNA. So, what is recombinant DNA? So, recombinant DNA is a type of genetic modification, and as we all know, genetic modification is the purpose of modifying a organism's genetic makeup so that we would be able to get a particular trait. So, for example, if we want the tallness of a certain animal or the color of the fur or what particular trait that you like, we could get this through recombinant DNA, or generally we could get this through genetic modifications. There are different modes of genetic modifications, and recombinant DNA is one of those. So before we proceed with recombinant DNA, let's go back to the basics. We have what we call as the selective breeding. So what is selective breeding? Selective breeding is the act of breeding for a particularly desirable trait. This is a form of natural genetic modification. This meaning to say, selective breeding has been going on for thousands of years. It's one of the most primitive ways that we genetically modify organisms. So, when we say organisms, this is not exclusive to those that are living and breathing or those animals that we like that are cute. This also applies to plants. So, for example, in the images on the right of your screen, we can see a chihuahua. So, chihuahuas and other small dogs are actually one of the most selectively bred organisms out there, because naturally dogs come from hounds. Hounds are not of a typically small size. So, ang nangyari is through generations of selective breeding, we bred small dogs because of their particular traits. And there are, yes, they may be cute. However, if we continue on with selective breeding, especially in animals and especially in dogs, what happens is they develop diseases and they are more prone to diseases. Now, in terms of plants, um, selective breeding does also apply and occur with plants. So, for example, would be a banana. So, a banana or corn, we selectively breed these plants, these crops, because we like a particular trait of it. So, for example, thousands of years ago, corn was not a edible grain. It was not a easily edible grain. Hindi siya katulad ngayon na pwede mo siyang kagatin out of the blue. So noon, ang corn ay isang parang bato talaga siyang grain. It's really a grain na para talaga siyang bato. Pero through years of selective breeding ng mga corn crops, we get to have more edible and more digestible corns. So what could be the disadvantage of this for crops? So, in terms of disadvantage for crops, selective breeding for crops is fairly harmless. Pero if we aren't careful and if we depend on that particular breed of a crop, there is a tendency na pag nagkaroon ng sakit yung crop na yon, yung particular crop na yon, yung particular breed ng crop na yon, yung specific type of crop na yon, magkakaroon ng chances na pwedeng ma-eradicate. For example, the banana. The banana we have today is a different kind of banana than what we have almost a century ago. So, the banana flavoring that we use in today's society, in today's world, yung banana flavoring na gamit natin, is not the same banana that we eat in our tables. So, why is that? So, yung banana noon ay isang type of banana for the entire world. Yun, kinultivate nila yun. Kinultivate nila yung specific type ng banana na iyon. And what happened was, nagkaroon ng sakit. There was a plant disease that spread to that banana. And since yun nga, it's just one breed of banana for the entire world, ang nangyari is na-eradicate yung specific type of banana na yun. However, there are different kinds of bananas out there. Kaya we get to still have bananas, pero we don't enjoy the same banana that we used to have 100 years ago. So let's move. So in terms of recombinant, so what is recombinant? Para lang siyang selective breeding, pero it's a more advanced type of selective breeding. So in recombinant, it's the action of getting the desired trait existing in a particular organism but not in the desired organism. So what do we mean by this? For example, a particular trait, let's say height. You really like the height of a giraffe, and you want that applied to your, let's say, your dog. Kaso medyo maliit yung aso mo. So, how would that happen? So, in terms of recombinant DNA, we extract that particular trait dun sa organism na meron yung trait na yun, and then ililipat natin dun sa gusto nating magkaroon ng trait na yun. So how is that process exactly? So, eto. So, there are three main processes, or rather, there are three main steps to the process. So, first up is the gene of interest. So, what is the gene of interest? Yun yung trait na gusto nating makuha and mabigay dun sa ibang organism. So, this is taken from a donor cell. So, we'll get into bakit cell yung ginagamit. Not just breeding them or something. And then once we get the gene of interest, the foreign DNA or the gene of interest from the donor cell is implanted to a plasmid. Typically, this plasmid is kind of DNA na nasa loob ng bacteria. So, bakit bacteria? We'll answer that question once I finish the third step. So, the third step is the transferring ng plasmid into the desired organism. So, the gene of interest is cut by restriction enzyme. So, what happens is, excuse me. So, bakit nga ba bacteria? So, our bodies, regardless if you're human or you're animal, we have our immune systems. We have varying degrees of our immune system. Some can take a large toll, some cannot. So, pag nag-introduce tayo ng one small gene to a different organism that doesn't have that gene, it will treat that gene as a foreign body kasi it's foreign, it's an invader technically. So para siyang sakit, para siyang virus dun sa katawan nung pinaglagyan natin. So ang mangyayari doon is pag nilagay lang natin diretso, tas i-eradicate or papatayin or mawawala ni immune system yung trait na yun, masasayang yung effort natin. So, that is why we put it in bacteria, yung preferred gene of interest natin. Because, pag nilagay natin si bacteria doon sa loob ng gusto nating bigyan ng trait na yun, si bacteria ay dadami muna. Si bacteria ay dadami doon sa katawan, and then it will start infecting it. Not infecting it na magkakasakit siya, but rather the trait will be more present in it. In the sense na, yes, malalabanan niya, pero hindi siya mawawala completely. If you understand it. So, what the main purpose of it is, maninigurado ka lang na hindi mawawala. So, yun. So aside from that, what are the benefits of recombinant DNA? So primarily, there are a lot of benefits for recombinant DNA. Pero first off, we have the production of human hormones, such as insulin or growth hormones. So back then, ang insulin ay that's not back then. So insulin is a type of hormone that's produced by our bodies to regulate sugar. No, so this is very important for those with diabetes. So if you're suffering from diabetes, there is a type of diabetes that requires insulin injections to manage the blood sugar levels. No, and this kind of hormone enables us the production of this kind of hormones outside of the human body enables us to help other people. Kasi dati, ang diabetes ay death sentence para sa marami. Nung sinaunang panahon, death sentence ang diabetes. Kasi once you get too much sugar, you don't manage your blood sugar, you can die from it. Kasi I don't know if you experience this, pero kwento ko lang. Sometimes I suffer from hypoglycemia. So, when we say hypoglycemia, bumababa yung blood sugar ko. So, doon, uh, parang nahihilo, I'm gonna pass out. So, imagine if that happens on extreme levels for those with diabetes, no? So, insulin is one of those benefits of recombinant DNA. Aside from that, we have engineered bacteria that will eat quote unquote oil from oil spills. Ibig sabihin, we don't need expensive technology para makawala ng magpaalis ng oils na natapon sa dagat, or um, we can just manage oil spills better. It won't take longer than what it is currently now. Next up, we have the production of pest-resistant crops. Ibig sabihin, hindi sila magkakaroon ng sakit ng mabilisan. And then lastly, we have hardier fruits, among others. So what do we mean by hardier fruits? So this is not just limited to fruits, but it also includes vegetables. When we say hardier fruits and vegetables, this is a longer shelf life. So an example given to us by our general biology teacher, Miss George, is in the Philippines, specifically in the island of Luzon, most of our crops are produced in Region 3, the Cordillera Administrative Region. So, that's because the area is very mountainous, it's very cold, hindi siya ganun ka-init. Tulad dito sa, let's say, sa Binyan, sa Santa Rosa, sa Los Baños, sa Cabuyao, or San Pedro. Medyo mainit-init yan kasi mababang lugar siya. Hindi siya katulad ng Baguio, ng areas in the central Luzon na higher up ang altitude. So, mas colder yung environment, um, which is more enabling for leafy greens or what have you. And it takes time na, yes, patutubuin natin yung mga halaman, pero yung travel time, pababa ng bundok, papunta sa mga markets, that takes time as well. So, baka mamaya, if we don't have hardier fruits, ang mangyayari pagdating sa market, bulok na. So, that's one of the benefits of recombinant DNA. So, ibig sabihin, hindi siya na-expire kaagad. No, pero it still expires, pero hindi siya ganun kabilis na masira. For example, if you grow your own vegetables sa bahay, mas mabilis yan masira compared mo dun sa vegetables na hinarvest ng mga farmers sa Cordillera na ibinababa pa dito sa other parts of the island, you know. So aside from that, we have what we call as transgenic animals. So in connection with the recombinant DNA, um, because of human rights, humans cannot be experimented on, kasi that would violate our human rights. It would violate sa health standards. So how do we get past this? By developing yun, let's say yung makeups, yung mga particular traits that we want, or medicines that we're going to test, or hormones that we produce Uh, we test them using transgenic animals. So what are transgenic animals? Transgenic animals are genetically modified animals to either mirror a particular human trait or the human immune system or a particular trait of the human body. So usually, para silang tao pero hindi sila tao. They have the traits of a human but they're still, well, animals. So first up we have the mice. So mice mirror the immune system of humans. Meaning to say there are mice that are genetically modified para halos kaparehas lang natin ng immune system. So why is this done? For example, sa medicines, makeups, the term lab rat will come into play. So why does that come into play? Yung mga gamot natin, yung mga products natin, they go through lab testing. Since we can't test them on humans just yet, they are tested on animals. Sometimes rabbits, sometimes squirrels, usually mice. These are what we call as lab rodents. Up next, we have the chickens. So chickens are naturally nagkakaroon talaga sila ng sakit. So, a way around this is to make them resistant to infections. Lalo na because, especially para sa ating mga kumakain ng meat, um, chickens are one of those protein-rich kinds of meat na we really do enjoy. So, it would be best that we do not eat or have any livestock na may sakit. So up next is cow. So higher milk supply and leaner meat. So sa mga cows, they have a limit to how much milk they can produce. So usually it will depend on how many baby cows they have. So we have modified cows that can produce larger quantities of milk to accommodate our needs. Then lastly, we have goats, sheep, pigs to produce human proteins in their milk. So why is this important? So there are mothers who do not have the ability, or rather, hindi naman do not have the ability, hindi lang sila normal mag-produce or mag-lactate. When we say lactate, mag-produce ng milk. So, sometimes they depend on other sources of milk, goat's milk, sheep's milk, pig's milk, para magkaroon ng human proteins in their milk. So, in this sense, nagkakaroon pa rin tayo ng healthier milk na hindi na apektuhan yung bata when they consume it. So, up next, and this will be the last part of our lesson, is the polymerase chain reaction. So, in relation to recombinant DNA, what is PCR or polymerase chain reaction? So, the polymerase chain reaction is a method of amplification of the DNA. So, what does amplification of the DNA mean? So, this basically means pararamihin mo yung particular segment ng DNA. So, para saan ba ang PCR? So, essentially, since ayun nga, na-discuss natin yung process ng recombinant DNA, there are times, syempre, na kumbaga matatalo ng immune system ng katawan ng i-infectan natin, quote-unquote. And, alam mo yun, paano pag nag-effort ka kunin yung isang trait na yun from a particular animal or a particular organism. Tapos biglang, that's your only copy. Pag in-inject mo yun kagad dun sa plasmid, tapos in-inject mo si plasmid dun sa organism, tapos biglang malalabanan pala ng organism. Parang nagsayang, nawala yung effort mo, di ba? So, that's a purpose of PCR. So, that's to multiply that DNA para hindi yung nag-iisang kinuha mong DNA, hindi lang siya nag-iisa, pararamihin mo siya. So, aside from that, we have what we call as the two methods of, I believe these are, inject modification, if I'm not mistaken. So we have in vitro or in vivo. So in vitro means this is happening
inside the laboratory or inside a test tube, and then in vivo means inside an organism. So usually, pag in vitro, ina-inject siya inside of a lab, and then in vivo, pag buntis yung mother, that's typically how it works. So that's primarily it for this lesson. I'll catch you up next time, erudites, and I wish you all the best of luck for our finals examination. Good luck, erudites.